Good afternoon, guys, or good morning, guys, and welcome back to another week of Huey highlights. Today we're taking a look at another piece of new content for an established game. The game in question is TS2018, and the piece of new content is the Medway Valley and Chatham main lines. So let's get down to business. This released a couple of weeks ago. Essentially, it's two lines if you don't already own the Chatham main line, or if you own the Chatham main line, you get this Medway Valley route added onto it. So what's included? Well, without further ado, let's tell you what we're going to show you in this video. This is one of the career scenarios. You get a couple of career scenarios for this route. This is the empty aggregate train from Purley to Huey Junction, just to the east of Gravesend, with one of the Class 59s included with the route. So we just stopped to the west of Tonbridge. It says, "Good morning, driver. Your Class 59 awaits you. You will be in charge of this freight service, taking empty aggregates from Purley Foster Yeoman to Huey Junction up yard, starting from Tonbridge West Yard. You may depart when you are ready." So let's take you away from that awful poor screen there for a second. Let's release the brakes and then we'll be off. Put the old wipers on as well. A little bit of the wiper action going there, boys. And we are moving. Yes, so basically what do you get with this route in terms of stock? Well, I'll show you what you get first of all in terms of the map and so forth. So we are here, just coming off the line that goes from Tonbridge to Redhill via Edenbridge. You've got a portion of the the southeastern main line up to Sevenoaks. You've got a portion of the southeastern main line continuing to Ashford. And then you've got the Medway Valley Line itself, which runs from Paddock Wood in the south all the way up to Strood in the north. Just making sure that I'm not speeding. This is Tonbridge Station. Now, if you own the 1066 line, which runs from Tonbridge to Hastings, from the backdated train sim people, I'll provide links to it in the description. It's a cracking route, which I thoroughly recommend. You will no doubt recognise this. This is Tonbridge Station. Just coming across the points there. Next to one of the other bits of rolling stock that you get included with this route. And a 375 in the latest southeastern livery. So you've got the Hastings line continuing to the right there via Tonbridge Wells. And so basically this is these are the Medway Valley the Medway towns, Rochester, Chatham and Gillingham. You have Strood Junction here. You have a portion of High Speed 1. Presumably this will be the Medway Viaduct, which, if you're not familiar with it, it's a very tall viaduct that runs parallel with the M2 motorway over the Medway Valley and the Medway Valley and Chatham main line. And this is the Chatham main line, which runs all the way up here, all the way into southeastern London up to London Victoria. And further to that, you've got a portion of the London to Faversham route, the North Kent line, as far as Gravesend. So in the London to Faversham route, the route continues onto Ebbsfleet, where you will all no doubt all remember you have to change traction from overhead to third rail, which I'm pleased to say it's holy third rail throughout this route. So as for the rolling stock, what do you get? You get I would say quite a variety of stock. You get a 375 in the latest southeastern livery, the dark blue and the grey, what you saw back then. You get a 465 in the previous southeastern livery of the white, the dark blue and the grey. You get a 377 in southern livery in their usual colours, green, black and white, I think. or primarily just green and white, and you get two 59s. You get the 59-0 in debranded Foster Yeoman colours, which is the blue and the grey, and you get this, the 59-2. In the current livery, the DB Schenker, now DB Cargo UK livery, although, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it used to carry possibly ARC or National Power liveries, way back before EWS came along. You also get with it quite a number of two sets of wagons, I believe, possibly three, I'm not sure. You get these EWS hopper wagons. You also get debranded ARC wagons, the old Amy Roadstone Corporation wagons in the old dark ochre and grey colours. So you get a nice variety of wagons and a reasonable variety of passenger rolling stock. So if you already own Chatham Mainline, apparently you will at some point get a 40% discount or a reimburse of the price if you purchase this route. I gather there was a bit of a mix-up when this route was initially released, in that the users or owners of the Chatham Mainline still had to pay full price to get this route. The idea was, of course, that the route was to be released a week later with a discount of 40%, but for some reason that didn't transpire, and I'm not entirely sure if that's going to happen in the future. They're going to reimburse people the 40% difference for owners and existing users of the Chatham Mainline. But if you don't already own the Chatham Mainline and you buy this route, basically you get two, possibly even, I would say, 2.25 routes. The quarter being that little spur up to Gravesend with Huey Junction, costing £24.99, which I would say is for this route is a pretty good deal. So we're coming along at the moment the southeastern main line, only as far as Paddock Wood. It of course continues to Ashford International in real life. Apparently one of the straightest, if not the straightest, sections of mainline track in the UK. Once we get to Paddock Wood, we diverge to the left and we continue up the Medway Valley Line via Maidstone West, Aylesford, and then we rejoin the Chatham and North Kent lines at Strood Junction. We are obviously a Class 6 train. If I bring up the scenario briefing, we are 6 Yankee 93. So if you're not familiar with your head codes, or train reporting number, each train has a unique head code. Class 1 being express passenger train, that's 1D or 1 Alpha, 1 Delta, etc. Class 2, 2 Delta, 2 Alpha is a local passenger train. Class 3, I believe, is a 90 mph freight, usually reserved for empty stock movements. Class 4 is a 75 mph limited freight, so that's things like your Freightliners which ply on the Great Eastern and West Coast mainline routes. Class 5 head code is your empty stock movement. Obviously they may share it with a Class 3, I do not know, somebody in the comments section may do, and they may correct me accordingly. And then you have this is the Class 6 head code, which is just a 60 mph limited freight, up to a Class 7, which is a 45 mph limited freight, and then I'm not sure Class 8 is used, and of course the Class 9 trains are used by the Eurostars between St Pancras, Paris and Brussels. And of course in seasonal times further afield as far as Switzerland and possibly Lyon as well, but that's a different kettle of fish. So we're coming up to a diverging junction. We have the flashing yellows indicating that we must slow down to 40 mph for this diverging junction just before Paddock Wood Station. We have a 40, a nice whistle board. Plenty of those whistle boards on the on this part of the route. There is a lot of level and user work crossings. The if you're not sure what a user work crossing is, if you go out to a busy railway line and you see what appears to be a series of gates either side of a footpath with a sign "Stop, Look, Listen," that's essentially a user work crossing. It's a crossing which you have to take responsibility for, essentially. So yeah, we go down to 40, then we slow down to a 25, then up to a 35, then back up to a 45. I'm not sure the average speed of the Medway Valley Line. I think it is possibly between 45 and 60 mile per hour. I've only played this scenario as far as I think it's Beltring, which is the next station after this one. So we got another adverse speed drop down to 25 mile per hour. Coming up in a couple of seconds. So the line continues to Marden, Staplehurst, Headcorn, Pluckley, and then ultimately Ashford International. Way back before the high speed one was complete, this route, of course, the southeastern main line, of course, not the Medway Valley Line, used to be used by Eurostar out of Waterloo until the first phase of high speed 1 opened in 2003, when they diverted to Farningham Road through Swanley and Bromley South, and then they rejoined a specially constructed spur onto the high speed one, which took them all the way towards the Channel Tunnel. And then, of course, in December 2007, St Pancras was opened, the remodelling was completed, and the entire high speed 1 line opened all the way from St Pancras through to the Channel Tunnel. So the Eurostars, for want of a better phrase, lost their shoes, and now the only services which work that particular part of the main line are trains to Ramsgate, Dover, Margate, etc. And of course the occasional freight which takes the route here up to Strood via the Medway line, coming up to another level crossing. So this is a number of career scenarios that you get with the route. For those people who watch me play trains on stream, you know that I'm not a particular fan of career scenarios. I find their scoring systems to be inconsistent across scenarios. Sometimes you will get scenarios which have really difficult parameters to get, like a silver or even a bronze. Other times you get career scenarios which are really easy to achieve, even though you drive really badly, if that makes sense. So I tend to stay away from career scenarios, and I tend to focus on standard, possibly even quick drive scenarios occasionally. So according to our task manager, we next go via Beltring. This is as far as I got to when I tested this yesterday. We go through Beltring, and then the next instruction, I believe, has a specific time to arrive by. So presumably, I think is that Tarning, maybe even Telning, I don't know, which we're supposed to arrive at 10:30. So presumably, if we don't arrive at 10:30, we'll get punished. Whereas if we arrive on, or possibly even before, whether that's by a minute or a couple of seconds, we might get the ubiquitous timelessness bonus. So, or timeful bonus, or whatever the word is. Something along those lines. So this is Beltring Station. Passing over another level crossing. There's one of those aforementioned 59 zeros in the debranded Foster Yeoman colours. Those of you who are not familiar with the Class 59, the Class 59 was built, I think, late 80s, early 90s as a derivative of the SD40, the Electromotor Division's SD40. So imported from America, I think Canada, although I might be completely mistaken. came in a number of batches. You had the 59 zeros, the 59 for Foster Yeoman. You had I think it was the 59 ones for ARC, and then the 59 twos, which were originally National Power and became EWS, now DB Schenker, DB Cargo UK. All, as well as that, have different light cluster formations. This light cluster formation is similar to what you see on the 66, except it doesn't have a roof light. Whereas the light clusters on the earlier 59s, like on that Foster Yeoman that we passed earlier, have a completely different light cluster formation. As for the sounds, are they like a 59? I haven't seen enough 59s in the real world to judge. I expect they probably sound like an older version of the 66, being as they are basically related almost. But again, if there's anybody in the comment section that regularly see these class of locomotive and the sounds aren't particularly good, then of course you will no doubt let me know. But main areas to see 59s are out on the Great Western, just to the west of perhaps Ealing onwards. They occasionally do workings to the Mendips, so that's quarry trains to Watley Quarry, to Merehead Quarry. We've got a particularly aggressive speed change now, down to 20. I have to be a bit careful here, because sometimes with these speeding bonuses the scores accumulate. Well, they're cumulative, so the longer that you speed, the worse the negative score gets, as is the case here. So we'll take it down almost to a crawl, almost completely stop there, to be honest. But this is the station which we're supposed to be at by 10:30. I think this is the particular point where it will tell me, yep, there we go, so we're back into the positive, which is good. What's the scenery like? Well, you do get a lot of custom station boards. If I can show you, if the train doesn't require my attention, you get a lot of custom station boards. So this station that I couldn't read or see properly is Yalding, not Talding or Tarning, as I tried to say. So you get a number of, again, that's coloured in the southeastern colours of dark blue, navy blue and white. Obviously, if those who are familiar with travelling on Southern Metals know that you have a similar station boards in similar font, but with a dark green as opposed to a dark blue colour. Back up to the line speed of 45 miles per hour. One thing I have noticed about this scenario is that although it's set in winter and the snow is falling and there is clear precipitation, there doesn't appear to be any signs of poor adhesion on the rails between the locomotive and the track. Adhesion that would require the use of sanding, that would require that would mean the occasional wheel slip here and there. So that's something I would have liked to have seen. This is ranked in the red with, I think it's 4, maybe 5 red bars, which indicates it's a hard difficulty in the career scenarios. But I just took my train there from idle to power setting 5 and I had virtually no wheel slip. So either this loco has absolutely terrific grip, almost super, possibly mega glue grip, or there is no wheel slip physics in action here, or any wheel slip that's been factored into the scenario. I'm not sure, being not a rolling stock creator, I'm not sure if wheel slip physics are part of scenarios or if they are part of when you construct a loco. And I've missed a whistleboard. GG drops. Coming up to the next waypoint, which is another station of Wateringbury. So let's show our progress on the map. So the line curves up to the right there, lots of waves and undulates its way until we get to Maidstone, and this is like a crossing point of two lines. You have Maidstone East and you have Maidstone West, and I think Maidstone Barracks, that's another station on the Medway line. This line is a spur, a little short section of the line that goes from Swanley to Ashford, I think, via Maidstone East. I believe as well that it used to be one of the old Eurostar routes out of Waterloo, as well as the route through Tonbridge. They also sometimes took the route through Maidstone East as well. Again, my memory may be completely wrong, it may be faulty, but that's what I distinctly recall. Or sorry, distantly recall, should I say. So we went via Waterloo, we now go via, is that East Farley? So this is in the former DB Schenker colours. DB Schenker, of course, rebranded themselves recently to DB Cargo UK. Although there are many freight locomotives still in the old EWS livery of gold and red, as I call them. You may call them different things, but I call them gold and red. There's another 375. What I also would have liked to have seen is the 466. They used to work the Medway Valley lines before the 375s came about. Basically, a 466 is a two-car version of a 465, which is a four-car train, usually, if not almost always, working in tandem with another four-car 465. Sometimes as well you get four-car 465s coupled together with a 466. So you end up with a five-car train in total, which is what you would normally see out of stations like Victoria, Charing Cross, Cannon Street, London Bridge, for instance. East Farley coming up in about 1.5 miles, a mile and a half. So as somebody who didn't originally buy the Chatham Main Line, I feel I've got a reasonable deal. As I said, there was a mix-up between Dovetail and the pre-existing users and owners of Chatham Main Line with the expectation that there would be a 40% discount. It later transpired that the route wasn't supposed to be released until a week later. So it's been a bit of a mix-up, a bit of a muddle, a bit of confusion, but that will maybe happen in the future. There will be some form of compensation or reimbursement. Who knows? It is what it is. Nice and wintry today. So let's have a look at our task sheet. So far we've got go vias all the way basically to the end. There's no shunting movements, we just literally stop at Huey Junction. So that's another thing I would have liked to have seen from this scenario, being ranked so with a hard difficulty, being given like a hard difficulty ranking. I would have liked to have seen a shunting movement at the end, actually marshalling the wagons around Huey Junction, getting set for the return journey to Purley Aggregates. But at the moment it's just a scenario with go vias and specific times that you have to be at certain stations in order for you to get a time bonus or something. I keep calling it a timelessness bonus. I don't think you would get a bonus for being late, unless of course you were Southern, where you might get a bonus for turning up at all. But there you go. We will leave real train politics out of Train Simulator. Here's East Farley station. So the wagon sounds are the default, I think the default sounds for these types of wagon Obviously there are sound enhancement packs out there for wagons, but I think they're only for about a couple of wagons that exist in the game. In fact, I'm not sure what wagons they are actually. Are they? They're not HHAs. What are they? They're JHAs. So I believe there is a sound pack for JHA hoppers out there. But I will provide links to the route. I will provide links as well for the 1066 route, which I talked about earlier. That's a freeway route which does require a couple of payware bits to work. Available by a guy, I think his name is Javier, and I think the name of his site is Backdated Train Sim. He did a number of routes, most notably the backdated North London line, which includes Broad Street. But that's for possibly another video. It has been out for a number of years. Certainly the 1066 line is another one of his creations. Coming up to Maidstone West, so coming up to the county town of Kent. So I'd say you do get the principal lines in Kent. You do get the 2 1/4 of the main lines running out of London to Kent. You get the Chatham main line and a little bit of the North Kent line. And you get this, of course, which runs from Tonbridge all the way through the county town of Maidstone, all the way up to the Medway towns themselves. So most, if not all, of the principal lines in Kent are here. The exception, of course, being east of. Oh dear. Again, this is a 30, which caught me unaware. Yeah, most of the lines east of Paddock Wood aren't included. In fact, none of them are included. It has to be said. So we're going through the middle roads here. And another bonus. Yeah, what I'm trying to say. You get most of the principal routes in the west of Kent. You don't get any of the coastal routes. Places like Margate, Broadstairs, Ramsgate, etc. Me mucking up English as I usually do, but there you go. Yeah, next station is Maidstone Barracks, one of 3 stations, possibly 4 stations, serving the county town. I think in a second we go over, possibly under the and we speed again. That's a given. We go over, possibly under the Swanley to Ashford route. Maidstone Barracks. Up ahead there's a siding called Allington that has 2 scenarios attached to it from this route. Basically one big scenario divided into 2 parts. So there's the other line. Down here somewhere is Maidstone East, which is here. Possibly regarded as the main station in Maidstone. Certainly one of the stations. Yes, so that uses, I believe, the 59.0, whereas this uses the 59.2. Divided into 2 parts. I think it's Allington to somewhere mystical and magical up north. So our score's back down to 15. Again, this is quite a punishing career scenario with regards to the speeding penalties that you accrue. Gets worse as the more that you speed. I like that the visibility changes. That it's very misty, very murky the further away, as it would do on a day like this. You get poor visibility all the way around. So I'm one of these people, if you haven't watched me on Train Sim when I stream, I like to use the HUD, or the minimised version of the HUD, which is what I'm basically using. This is interesting. We've got what appears to be a gap in the track up ahead. Let's see what that's all about, shall we? Oh, it's a portal. Okay. So I believe that's Allington Sidings we just passed, possibly. Yes, it is. Just to the north, possibly the northwest. I think this is the M20, one of the two main motorways in Kent. The other, of course, being the A2/M2. Both motorways, which in their own way feature in Euro Truck Simulator. If people who own that game are familiar with Euro Truck, will know what I'm on about. This is interesting. We've got what appears to be a gap in the track coming up ahead. We'll see what happens in a second. Nothing untoward, which is good. Obviously, that probably denotes the fact that there's a portal on the line. A portal, of course, is used by scenario creators to spawn and despawn AI, to save you having to write in later stops on longer routes. For instance, you could just put it into a portal. Another drop to 20, actually. So we're averaging about 45, possibly 40 miles an hour. I'm going to be speeding again by the time I get to the speed board, as you do. I would imagine with a 375 or a 466, the acceleration is slightly better than what I'm using. So and deceleration. Oh, wow. But there's a lot of tight curves on this route. Obviously, this is a classed as a branch line, so a branch line that links two main lines. So you will, of course, get a lot of these adverse speed changes coming up to Aylesford. And then we've got how many instructions? 1, 2, 3, 4. Coming up to one of my favourite station names, Snodland. Don't know why it's called that, but there you go. Obviously, these town names have their origins in Victorian times. What I think I will do for this video is I will stop when we get to Strood. That will then show you the most pertinent sections of this line, which is the Medway Valley Line. Obviously, what comes after Strood, people who own the London Faversham route will know the area. Those who own the Chatham line will know the route west of Strood, places like Mepham and Farningham Road onto Swanley. So I'll only show up to Strood on this video as it's the Medway Valley Line. Next station is we go via West Hythe. Some new station assets that I recognise. Some have been used from the Chatham main line, of course, and some possibly as well from the London to Faversham route. another what appears to be a 375. In the latest southeastern livery. So now go up to 30 miles per hour now. Are there any stops where we have to be at a specific time? Yes, at Snodland. Where we have to be at 10:52, which is 3 minutes from now. So one will hope that the next two stations aren't that far apart. Otherwise, we are running late. Well, we will be running late by the time we reach Snodland. So another couple of sidings. This, of course, is New Hythe, rather, not West Hythe. Obviously, New Hythe sidings or something similar. Obviously, someone in the comments section might like to let me know what they are called. So, like with all scenarios set with a winter theme, most textures that come with buildings, including station assets, have predefined textures that are enabled if a winter mode is selected. So, for instance, like on those platforms back there, you saw that the platforms looked like they were icy, if not very icy. When a scenario is set in the winter, the textures change. It's the same with when a scenario is set at night time. The textures have a predefined night template. Usually, mostly these days, what some routes tend to do is they have individual light assets, whether that's a headlight or not a headlight, a building light, which you can place yourself without actually having to redefine a completely new set of textures for the night, for nighttime scenarios. Obviously, it's better if you do the latter. It makes it look a lot more cleaner when especially if you have a scenario which spans the two periods between night and day. As somebody who builds or used to build a couple of routes, I can tell you that getting things right, getting a route to look nice in the winter and at night, are two of the hardest challenges ever as a route editor. I am, without wishing to sound a plug, I am one of the creators of the West Coast Main Line, London and the Midlands, which I will also link if you're interested in the comments section. And I also did a couple of other routes as well, but that's my main one, which I co-authored with a chap called Andy Alexander. Again, if you're interested, completely irrelevant to the Medway Valley Line, but I will provide the links in the description below. So we have another bonus there. We obviously managed to get through Snodland without too much of a lost time. Next station we go through is Halling, and then I believe that is the penultimate station before we reach Strood. Yes, it is. No, it's the last but one route, last but one station rather, last but one route before we get to Strood Junction. So in a second, the line should pass under the Medway Viaduct, one of the more impressive modern day structures, spanning the Medway Valley itself and running parallel to the M2 motorway, and of course taking high speed 1 over it as well. So as well as the usual tunnel symbols, you get a lot of these symbols here in the HUD, which I think denote bridge assets or bridge lofts perhaps. When you run some of the older routes for Train Simulator, you'll find a lot of precipitation physically goes through the buildings. or you will find that the clag or smoke from a steam engine goes up through the bridges. I think with the modern day, we'll be able to test it here perhaps. Yeah, there we go. So with the modern day bridges that have been around for a number of, well, a year at least, the creator has specified them so that the bridges do not allow precipitation or clagged to go through it. So that's why you see on the HUD what appears to be hurdle symbols. These little hurdles, they're like, you're gonna, like something you expect to jump over. I think they denote an independent bridge asset. Much in the same way you get a series of square brackets placed according to how long the tunnel is, denoting a tunnel asset. So this tells the simulator, do not let anything through this particular bridge. So the next, this is the last but one station before we reach Strood, is of course Cuxton, and in a couple of minutes we should see the Medway Valley, the Medway Viaduct. Keep wanting to call it the Medway Valley Viaduct. I think both are the both are accurate. So obviously there are scenarios that are not set in winter. I think by showing you this scenario, it gives you a chance to see the route from a more rawer perspective, as it's set in winter where there aren't that many assets around. So there's the River Medway itself to the right. Strood is in 2 miles. I think Strood itself is a suburb of Rochester, but I could be mistaken. People who know the area well in the comments section might like to let me know otherwise. So this is the Medway Viaduct coming up. So there's high speed 1, and there's the M2 motorway. So not actually the proper viaduct. It's a facsimile. It's a couple of assets strewn together to make it look like the Medway Viaduct, but it's not an actual custom asset. It's a couple of existing assets combined to give it like a facsimile appearance of the viaduct, which is a bit disappointing, but there you go. So we're on the last leg now to Strood, and then where the video will end. I hope this has given you a brief flavour of the Medway Valley Line from my perspective. Obviously I am aware that there have been a number of videos on the Medway Valley Line since its release on YouTube around, but I hope this gives you like a different perspective, running a scenario that shows the route in its rawest form in winter, with not many assets, not much detail, and etc. So this is another drop to 25 miles per hour coming up to Strood Junction. And from what I recall, I believe we go under the Chatham main line, and trains running from Rochester up to Gravesend go round a tight bend, from what I can recall from running London to Faversham route. Before I purchased this route to show you, I only had the London to Faversham route installed, so I only had that version of Strood Station. So I'm running off that as a recollection. London to Faversham route, I would probably say, is the best third rail route. Well, it's third rail stroke overhead route, a full train simulator. But again, that's for another day. So yeah, Strood is quite a big station. Obviously not just serves this this line, it also serves trains running from the Medway towns, possibly Dover, possibly Margate, possibly Ramsgate. We've got the Chatham main line going above us, misspeeding again, which is good. And it also serves the new South Eastern high speed services all the way to St Pancras, as well as trains. Oh, it's 15, isn't it? Oh, GG chops. As well as trains running all the way over the North Kent line up to Dartford, Woolwich, and then eventually London Bridge and Charing Cross. So there we go, guys. I do hope you like what you've seen. I do hope that you enjoyed this winter scenario, and check out next week for another video that I'll be posting. And in the meantime, keep on driving, as they say. Thank you very much for watching.